This is the statement that started it all, right here in my hand. The numbers are all in black, not red. There's more than enough. I look around this beautiful sunlit kitchen in my Arizona condo. Everything I was told to secure: the paid off mortgage, the prudent investments, the safe, sunny retirement community. I did everything right. Jerry and we followed the plan to the letter. And let me tell you something I wish someone had told me. I saved a fortune, and I still got retirement wrong. Because nobody prepares you for the quiet. To understand how I got here, you have to understand what here was supposed to be. It was supposed to be us, Jerry and me, 43 years. We met at Ohio State, can you believe it? A library, of all places. He was studying engineering. I was getting my teaching degree. He had this laugh. You could hear it across the room. We built a life in Columbus, a life so full it hummed. The house on Elm Street with the big backyard, Jennifer and Michael running through sprinklers, me finally in the school library, helping kids find that one book that clicks for them. Jerry with his spreadsheets, planning our golden years down to the last dime. Summer barbecues, winter holidays packed with family, the comfortable rhythm of decades. That was the promise. You work hard, you save, you raise your family, and then you get your time together. The turning point wasn't a single day, it was a season. 2017, Jerry's diagnosis, pancreatic cancer. The world just stopped. Those spreadsheets couldn't fix this. We fought for 2 years. I held his hand in a hospital room that started to feel more like home than our house. And in 2019, I lost him. I lost my best friend, my partner in everything. And I didn't just lose my husband, I lost my future. The one we'd penciled in for 30 years, the trips to Italy we kept putting off, the lazy mornings with coffee on a porch we hadn't bought yet. All of it gone with him. So I did what I thought was the brave, sensible thing. I sold our home. Too many memories in every corner. The kids were grown with their own lives in Denver and San Francisco, and I moved to Arizona for the sun, for a fresh start, for a place without ghosts in the hallway. But you know what they don't show you in the brochures? The silence. It has a weight to it. I'd set my beautiful table for one. I'd sit on a couch that suddenly felt too big. I'd have a lovely, polite phone call with one of the kids, and when it ended, the silence would rush right back in, louder than before. It's having all the time in the world and no one to share it with. That's the loneliness money can't fix. You can be surrounded by every comfort and feel utterly adrift. I'd walk Biscuit, my little terrier, and smile at neighbors. I'd make small talk at the grocery store. I'd come home to my perfectly arranged, quiet life. And I started to realize this wasn't a retirement. This was just waiting. I had solved for financial survival, but I had forgotten to build for a human life. The change began in the smallest way, a rebellion against that silence. It was late 2020, the world was locked down, and I felt more isolated than ever. My grandson Ben showed me how to use this video calling on my computer, and I thought, if I'm feeling this, how many others are sitting in their own quiet kitchens, just like me? So I turned on the camera, just me in this same kitchen, my voice a little shaky, and I started to talk, not about money, but about loss, about eating alone, about the strange courage it takes to introduce yourself to someone new when you're 70. I just told the truth. And something happened. People started writing back. Me too, they said. I thought I was the only one. That tiny glow from the computer screen, it became a lifeline. It was the first crack of light in a very quiet house. I didn't know it yet, but I was starting to build a new kind of future. Not the one I'd planned, but one I desperately needed. Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me. The moment everything changes isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quietest sound in the world. It was the click of the lock on the front door of our house on Elm Street. The movers had left. The rooms were empty, just echoes of our life on the bare floors. I stood in the foyer with my suitcase and Biscuit's carrier. Jennifer and Michael had flown in to help, but they'd just left for the airport. That hug goodbye, it felt different. I wasn't just their mom leaving a house. I was a woman about to become a stranger to herself. I got in the car for Arizona, and as I drove away, I watched that house get smaller in the rearview mirror. I wasn't just leaving a building. I was leaving Barbara Mitchell, the wife, the mother in that home. I was driving towards someone I didn't know yet, and that was terrifying. The immediate aftermath was all about the logistics. The financial impact started there. Selling the house freed up money, sure, but it also crystallized costs I hadn't felt before. In Ohio, my world was small and familiar. In Arizona, everything was a transaction. The HOA fees, the new insurance, the landscaper for a cactus I was afraid to touch. Jerry's spreadsheets had budgets for vacations, for grandkids' college funds. They didn't have a line item for building a new life from scratch at 68. But the real cost wasn't in the bank statements. It was in the silence of this beautiful sunlit condo. The desert is quiet, and this kind of quiet, it has teeth. I'd wake up and for 1 second I'd forget. Then I'd turn over and see his side of the bed, perfectly made. And the loneliness didn't just bite, it swallowed me whole. I'd go to the grocery store and realize I only had to buy for one. I'd make a pot of soup, his favorite, and end up eating it for a week. I had all this time, this freedom we'd saved for, and no one to share the joke with. No one to say, "Barb, look at that sunset." My identity just dissolved. For 43 years, I was Jerry's wife. I was Jennifer and Michael's mom. I was Mrs. Mitchell, the librarian. Here, I was just the nice new lady in Unit 214. Who was I if I wasn't those things anymore? A widow. That word felt like a label on a jar, sitting on a shelf. I'd have polite conversations by the mailboxes. "Lovely weather, isn't it?" But nobody asked about Jerry. Nobody knew about the backyard on Elm Street, or the way he could fix anything with duct tape and determination. That history, that shared story, it was gone. And without it, I felt like a ghost in my own life. The descent began so gently. It was in the not bothering. Not bothering to set the table, just eating at the kitchen island. Not bothering to get dressed some days until noon. I stopped playing music. The silence felt more honest. I'd look at my financial statement, all those healthy numbers in black, and think, what is this for? I had solved for safety, but I was marooned in it. The kids would call, their voices full of their own busy lives. I'd say everything was wonderful, the condo was beautiful, the sun was shining, and it was all true, and it was all a lie. Because the truth was, I was starting to disappear. I had a fortune, and I was using it to slowly vanish. Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me. Your children love you, but they have their own lives. And that love, as real as it is, can't fill the space where a partner used to be. The calls from Jennifer and Michael became scheduled events. Sunday evenings, I'd sit by the phone waiting. And their voices were always so full of soccer games, of work deadlines, of their own families. I'd listen and I'd be so proud. And then they'd ask, "How are you, Mom?" And I'd say, "I'm wonderful, sweetheart. The weather is gorgeous." What I didn't say was, "I am so lonely I can feel it in my bones." What I didn't say was, "I need you to need me." That neediness felt like a shameful secret. I had the money to be independent, so I was. The first Thanksgiving alone was the worst. I flew to Denver to Jennifer's. The table was beautiful, but it wasn't my table. It wasn't my china. It wasn't Jerry carving the turkey, making a silly joke. I was a guest in my daughter's home. I helped with the dishes, and I felt like I was in the way. I came back to Arizona, to this beautiful silent condo, and I cried for 2 days. I had a fortune, and I had traded my life for a guest room. The days began to bleed together. I'd wake up, and the only thing I had to decide was what to have for a dinner I didn't want to cook. I'd talk to Biscuit, and I'd realize I was having full conversations with a cat. The silence wasn't just in the condo, it was inside me. I'd look in the mirror and see my mother's face looking back. I'd think about her in that assisted living home, and a cold fear would settle in my stomach. Was this how it started? Here's what nobody tells you about getting older alone. The darkest thoughts aren't about dying, they're about living like this for another 20 years. I'd look at my financial plan, that masterpiece Jerry and I built, and I'd think, this could fund decades of this emptiness. The money felt like a sentence. I had everything I was supposed to have, and I had never felt more pointless. I started having a glass of wine with lunch, then 2. It softened the edges of the quiet. I stopped calling friends back in Ohio. Their lives were moving forward, couples taking trips, and my stories were all in the past tense. I was a relic. The lowest point was a Tuesday. I'd spilled some milk, and I just sat down on the kitchen floor and sobbed. Not over the milk, over the sheer exhausting effort of being, of having to be Barbara Mitchell, who had it all figured out, when I was just a tired, sad, lonely woman on a cold tile floor. I had a thought, clear as day. I could just stop. Not in a dramatic way, just stop trying so hard. Let the days swallow me. That scared me. That really scared me. Because that wasn't me. That was the silence talking. The isolation had become a presence, a heavy blanket smothering who I used to be. I had saved for a sunny day, but I was sitting in the dark with all the lights off. I had gotten the math so right, and I had missed the entire point of the equation. That Tuesday on the kitchen floor was my bottom. And you know what? Hitting bottom is a gift, because there's only one way to look, and that's up. I didn't get up right away. I sat there until my legs were stiff, but I made